उपयुक्तेषु वैषद्यं त्रिवर्ग निरपेक्षता Karanatraya Sarupyam iti Saukhya Rasayanam. A very good day to the gathering here. I'm extremely fortunate to be a part of these summits and blessed that the topic given to me is by body, mind and the soul. And the verse that I cited talks about the oneness, the equilibrium with which the three of them should function. And the summit in itself exemplifies the oneness of so many things coming together. What can talk more about oneness and unity where you see Republic and the Hindu on the same banner? And I was preceded with a conversation with Mohit Joshi, who was referred to as Mojo. And I'm sure Barkha will be extremely happy. But the good part about Mojo is, unlike most other words with start with J and O, should not be pronounced as Joe. It's Ho. It's San Jose. But Mohit Joshi has made Indians proud by making us pronounce the way it is. It's Mojo. So thank you for that. In this beautiful Bhagya Nagaram, which otherwise is famously, historically called as Hyderabad and Secunderabad, the land with the twin cities, separated by the waters. I am quite reminded of this Patram called Hanuman, who features as an icon of valor, prowess, and intellect. How does the topic come together with this Patram? Hanuman is referred to as Vanara. Apparently, most of us have this habit of translating every word and calling Vanara as a monkey. But a set of research scholars have opined that Hanuman need not be the monkey that we presumably see in most of the zoos today, and some loitering outside as well. So it could be referring to a species which is not found now, which were very close to humans, so they were referred to as Vanara. In whichever case, he was too qualified to be a Vanara. He was called the Navavyakarana Pandita, a person who was adept in the 9 forms of grammar. He is given a task. He comes with a resolve to assist a person who is an acquaintance of a few days. Rama, who lived in Maharashtra and then ventured into Karnataka Pradesham. The inscriptions call it Karnata and not Karnataka. Karneshu Atati iti Karnatam. That region which is filled with such great valorous people, and when their valor reaches your ears, it seems your ears start nodding. So it's Karneshu Atati. So ears start relishing and nodding. So it's called Karnata. Of course, there is a Kakaram, which is a suffix which is added, Karnataka. So as Rama ventures into Karnataka Pradesham, he has an acquaintance with this overqualified, well-spoken Vanara called Hanuman. And Hanuman comes with a resolve to strike a good friendship with this person. So there is mind which is playing a role here. Of course, the next step is when Hanuman reasons out the melancholy that Rama had because of his wife being abducted. So he says, I will assist in the process, and bodily he levitates himself to go to Lanka Pradesham, meets up with Sita. Now, there are 2 things that come across very strikingly when we see Hanuman as a Patram. 1, Rama did not give any profile picture to Hanuman stating this is Sita. So it would be worthwhile for any person to take this up as an assignment. That too, it was an on-site assignment. He is going abroad. Hope he was not paid in the Sri Lankan currency, which is not that valued. So when he went to Lanka Pradesham, he didn't have an idea about how Sita will look. And the icing on the cake was, he had graduated from a school from which he was the only student. So co-education was never there as a part of his curriculum. So moving with women, understanding their sensitivities, and then understanding or seeing the person whom he is going in search for were not a part of his requirements sheet. Yet he ventured. Once he goes to Lanka, he has got a very limited time to go in search of Sita. So he goes during the evening hours when the sun was about to set, and he has to return to Bharatadesham before the sun rises. So time is limited. The person whom he is going in search of is not known to him. He has not seen or moved with that gender to which the person belongs to. Yet he makes a firm resolve in his mind that bodily I have come here. I am sure I can make use of mine because I have one, to see where this lady is. Of course, there is a mismatch that he makes, that he first thinks Ravana's Patni Mandodari to be Sita. He gets extremely excited. Aspotayama sa chuchumba pucham nananda chikrida jagau jagama stambhana roham nipapata bhumau nidarshayam swam prakritim kapinam. He exhibited the nature of a monkey, says Valmiki, when he started kissing his tail as a mark of seeing Sita, but whom he did not know that it was Mandodari. Later he course corrects himself, gets into Ravana's kitchen, finds various dishes, doesn't find either Sita in a full form or in the cooked form. Then he goes back to the Vatika called Ashoka Vanika Sita. Then he sits atop the Shimshupa Vriksham and then looks down. Now he wanted to be doubly sure if the woman who was sitting there in a certain posture was Sita. That is when Valmiki uses this line, Tarkayamasa Siteti. Through logical reasoning, he concluded this is Sita. Tarkayamasa Siteti. How? When Sita left Ayodhya, she was dressed and draped in silk clothes. She wore gold jewelry. More gold jewelry was appended to her as a gift for not having attended her marriage by Atri's wife Anasuya. As she is being abducted, she throws away the jewelry, some part of her jewelry of the body, so that these could be reminders for Rama to trace the path where she is going to get languished. Hanuman, interestingly, one of the Vanaras who collected the jewelry doesn't find those jewelry on her body. For example, a choker. I'm sure this is the land of Amrapali and many other jewelers. So go visit. No woman would want to wear two chokers because it's really going to choke you then. So you wear one. If the choker has been thrown and the choker is not found on her body, that gives one evidence that the jewelry is not repeated. Second, she did not throw the jewelry as is. She tied them up to a silk pallu which she was wearing. So it says, Taddakulanka Murta, when she was abducted, on the day she was abducted, the sari that she was wearing had the motif of a Hamsa. Taddakulanka Murta. So when it was torn and thrown, the same Hamsa motif was found on her body. So, Tarkayamasa Siteti, through these indications, he concludes that this must be Sita. And then there are various other statements added. Ekastha Hridayanunam Rameva Anupashyati, says Valmiki. So he began with the resolve in his mind that he is going to assist Rama. Using his body, he goes there, levitates himself to Lanka. To conclude this is Sita, he sandwiches again with the mind that is applied. And as he returns to Bharatadesham, while he wants to submit himself, Rama says, I have nothing in my hand that can be at par or equal the service that you have rendered, Hanuman. Apara, Paravara, Parikha, Parivrita, Parapura, Parasruta, Davadahana, Javana, Pavana, Bhava, Kapivara, Parishwanga Bhavita, Sarvasvadana. Parishwanga Bhavita, I will give myself to you. So this is the soul connection that they establish. So one patram called Hanuman beautifully brings the equilibrium that the mind, the body and the soul could be put into a beautiful stakeholder triangle that we all call in our Kotla books. Getting back to the topic again. It says mind, body, and soul. I'm okay with mind. I'm okay with the word body. But somehow the word soul doesn't fit the civilizational ethos of this land. In the urge and in the pretext to sound as English as possible, we have attempted to translate every possible word from the civilization into English. And certain words neither make sense nor do they establish they connect. One such word is soul. Atma, if the word is Atma in our mind and we wish to translate it for the legibility and understandability of our audience into the word soul, we are making a huge mistake. It's horrendous to say the least. Atma is in soul. I don't know what soul is, but I know for sure that Atma is in soul. What does the word Atma mean? Apnoti iti Atma. That which attains what it wishes to attain is Atma. Paulo Coelho says in The Alchemist, if you aspire to achieve something, the world will try to cooperate with you to achieve that. That concept is what Atma stands for. Brahmavit apnoti param. That which attains what it wishes to attain is Atma. If the Atma desires to be at the feet of Paramatma, it will get, because it resolves to do that. I am not sure if the word soul does justice to this meaning. That is why, interestingly, in Sanatana Dharma, in the parents, if the father has always wanted to achieve something high in his life and he is not able to achieve it himself because of various constraints, he tries achieving it through his daughter or son. That is why in the civilization that this land has given, the child is referred to as Atmajam. When we refer to Vyasa, we say Vyasam Vasishtha Naptaram Shaktef Pautram Parasharatmajam. Instead of calling him as the son of Parashara, they say that his soul, his Atma, has given rise to another. So Atma is something beyond the word soul, but the topic suggests body, mind, soul. So with the little democratic right that has been bestowed upon me by my constitution, I take with all humility and modesty, I would like to convert the topic as body, mind, and the Atma. That said, when we talk about the mind and the body, how do they come together to give rise to knowledge? In Sanatana Dharma, we believe in two forms of knowledge. One is that knowledge which is embodied in the Atma. It is called Dharmik Jnanam. The second is the attributive knowledge, which is called Dharma Bhuta Jnanam. For example, the Dharmik Jnanam that is seasoned in the Atma does only one job. It just keeps telling the word I. Why? Because that shows the existence of Atma. That is why most of the Vedantic speakers have this one example to give. After having a very, very deep sleep in the night, the person who isn't even had the opportunity to dream anything about, he or she wakes up in the morning at about 6 a.m. and somebody asks, oh, how did you sleep? The person doesn't say well. He makes it a complete sentence. He says, I slept well. Pertinent question, the follow-up question which most Vedantins ask is, if you have slept well, how did you know that the I in you slept well? The I in you slept well. So, while his body slept, the I did not sleep. That is why he says that I slept well, which means I didn't sleep well. Slept well is the body. So, this functioning of the Atma that keeps telling I or the I-ness is Dharmik Jnanam. The second knowledge is Dharma Bhuta Jnanam, which is attributive knowledge. That gets ignited only when one of the senses of the body comes in contact with an object. Well, I am 2 years of age, my grandfather takes me along and says, this is light. Immediately my eye captures the picture of the light and sends it to my brain, and that gets stored like the pensieve of the Harry Potter. So it gets stored in my brain that these are the features of the light. So while I'm 3 years old, my grandfather doesn't have to remind me again. And then I tell him back, this is light. Because the moment my eye captures that picture and sends it to my brain retrieves from the archives that this is light that you have learned. So this knowledge gets ignited only when we come in contact with the objects. That is why Vedantins say, To a coma patient, dharmi jnanam works. Dharma bhuta jnanam doesn't operate. That is why even after standing in front of the person, even after the eyes of the person captures your photo, it cannot correspond well with the brain to tell you what it is. So both these knowledge, dharmi jnanam, dharma bhuta jnanam, forms a part of our education system. That said, what is its relevance today? This civilization, the civilization of this land, has for very, very long believed that three things have to come together for any activity to fructify or succeed. One is what you think. Second is what you do through your body. And third, whether you have a connection and a resolve in your mind. Karanatraya sarupyam iti saukhya rasayanam. Karanatraya sarupyam. Manasa, vacha and karmana. I'm sure I may have given this example elsewhere. When we enter the flight, I'm going to fly, so I enter the flight. The air hostess there welcomes me with a namaste. Honestly tell me, she opens her mouth and she says namaskaram or namaste. She puts her palms together as a symbol, as a sign of namaste. Because this mudra is called Anjali. I think it was Amalaji who was there in the morning. In one of her movies, she says, Oriyali, Rendali, Moonali, Nalali, Anjali. So, Anjali, Anjalim Paramamudra Kshipram Deva Prasadini. So, this mudra is called Anjali. You know why this is called Anjali? Because Jalayati iti Anjali is the etymology. When I stand in front of a person and I plead in front of him, sir, please. It seems, looking at this mudra of my palms coming together, the person standing opposite me will be so moved that tears will start rolling down his or her cheeks. Because this mudra brings tears to the opposite person, it is called Jalayati iti Anjali. So when I put my palms together, who teaches Anjali mudra now? WhatsApp. You know, in the last 4 years, emoticons have played a big role in our messaging. So the moment you type thanks, immediately you will have this mudra coming. Everybody across the world, we have become patrons of this Vedic civilization. So Anjali, this is the mudra for namaskaram. So how do you say it? With your mouth you say namaskaram. How do you do it through your body? This. So I said three things have to come together. Your mind, your mouth, what you speak, and your body. Manasa, vacha, karmana. So when I enter the flight, the air hostess says namaskaram. But imagine, I'm not sure if she means it from her mind. She may be wondering, she may be praying to her stars that this person doesn't keep pressing the button. Bring me this and bring me that. So probably she's trying to put this as a gesture saying, please don't. So we don't know. So she has said namaskaram from her mouth. She has put it through her body, but the resolve is there or not, we don't know. Let's get back to some of the days. I'm sure some of the people of my generation, generations above me, will remember the days when the intellect in history papers at schools were measured by the length of our answers. And I would be flabbergasted when one of my friends in the first half an hour would say, additional sheet, ma'am. Arre baba, main sheet mein likhne ke liye kuch nahi hai. And then our art of converting active to passive, passive to active. Aurangzeb imprisoned his father was imprisoned by Aurangzeb. So because you have to fill 1,000 words to get 10 marks for that. So that said, I remember my grandmother telling me, just don't read. Study for the sake of studying. Do it with that full involvement. Aurangzeb imprisoned his father. Read that with that full emotion. So that was what my grandmother used to say. So what she meant was, do not read it vacha alone. There should be manasa. So all three things come together, that activity flourishes. So the shlokam says, Upayukteshu Vaishadyam Trivarga Nirapekshata Karanatraya Sarupyam iti Saukhya Rasayanam. The poet says, I will give you a panacea, a concoction for a good living. Saukhya Rasayanam, when all three of them come together. Next, we have the concept. Now we have spoken a bit about the mind. Next comes to the body. People who generally speak, they say, Sir, Sanatana Dharma is so interesting. Now I've taken the Gita and I've started reading. If you start with the Gita, it will become a disaster. Because Bhagavad Gita is the essence of the Upanishads. That is why there is a shlokam called Itihasa Puranabhyam Vedam Samupabrahmayet Bibheti Alpashrutat Vedat Mamayam Pracharishyati. Without reading the Itihasas and the Puranas, if you go directly to the Vedic scriptures fear that this person will end up misinterpreting me. So Bhagavad Gita is the essence of our scriptures, of our Shastras, but that is like a postdoctoral fellowship. What comes as an elementary, middle school and high school education is the Itihasas and the Puranas. That said, we have time and again when you switch on one of the channels, they'll say Sanatana Dharma believes in Atma, body is not required, Atma is important. Sanatana Dharma refutes it. It says, body is equally important. Atma cannot function by itself. It needs the body. That is why in Varaha Puranam you've got this shloka, Sthite manasi susvasthe sharire satiyo naraha dhatu samye sthite smarta vishwarupam cha mam ajam tatastham riyamanam tu kashtha pashana sannibham aham smarami madbhaktam nayami paramam gatim. Sthite manasi susvasthe. So the verse says, in that body which is healthy, where there is a healthy body is where the Atma can also function very well. That is why Ayurveda is extremely important, Sanatana Dharma. In of the 14 Vidyasthanams, Ayurveda is very important. And the way allopathy views and Ayurveda views the body is slightly different. I wouldn't get into which is right, which is wrong, which is better, which is not so better. In Ayurveda, we believe that the 5 elements, Akashat, Vayuhu, Vayor, Agnihi, Agner, Apaha, Adhyat, Prithvi, the 5 elements. Those elements get into combination and give rise to 3 doshas called Kapham, Vatam and Pittam. So technically an Ayurvedic person would always give those kind of medicines meant for the right time. So body is equally important. And finally, much could be spoken about the body and the mind. And third, the most important of all, Atma. But remember, Krishna, while he concludes Bhagavad Gita, he says, Atma can neither be crushed, burnt, melted, or destroyed. Avikaraya, Shuddhaya, Nityaya. It remains eternal. Nityo, Nityanam, Chetanas, Chetananam, Eko Bahunam sa Vidadhati Kaman. It remains the way it is. But that Atma needs to exit this material body, and the only way it can exit this material body is when the material body functions in tandem with the mind. Else it will keep being born again and again and again. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani, jathare shayanam. Like how we take a SIM card from the previous cell and shift it to a new cell, the contacts are all carried from this SIM card to the other. Similarly, philosophy says the vasanas are carried. That is why, surprisingly, you find many 2-year-old kids recognizing ragas very fast. 3-year-old kids which can do maths very fast, because there will be some amount of carryover of vasanas from the previous janma. But the best way is for the Atma to exit the body. And for that, the body has to function in tandem with the mind. Like how in biology we speak about homeostasis, it is very important that the body, mind and the Atma come together. I've had the audacity to convert the topic itself from the word soul to Atma. I hope I'll be forgiven and will be redeemed and will get emancipation for this change. Thank you so much. The time given to me was half an hour. They rang the bell at the 28th minute. So I thought I should be dutifully correct respecting the numbers and the maths. So now comes the conclusion with the 30 minutes. Now let them go to the questions. Thank you.
Great speech, Dushyanth. Thank you for everything. I think we have only 10 more minutes. So I have only 2 questions to ask you. So the topic is mind, body and soul. So there are 2 incidents which I would like to take. One from Ramayana and one from Mahabharata. So there was a time when Sita was dropped at the Tamasa river, and she was dropped by Lakshmana, and then Lakshmana didn't turn back, and then we all know that. This was the second incident which happened to her. I don't know if you agree or disagree. She was not probably not treated well or whatever it is by Lord Sri Ram. And she didn't make a fuss about it. She said, okay, I'm going to be here. And then she continued with her life. Now, the second thing what I would like to ask you, there's a very interesting story in Mahabharata. When Ashwatthama comes inside, he kills the children of Draupadi, the Pandavas, and Draupadi fumes. She says that, I can't, I would like to get his head. But then finally, when the Pandavas bring Ashwatthama, she either, I don't know if she forgot or she says, let him go. She probably forgave him. So these two incidents when you take, obviously you can't answer on behalf of Sita and Draupadi. How do you handle this, Dushyanth? Like for example, when the Agni Pravesha happened for Sita, she could have just left. She could have told him that, listen, dude, I can't live with you. Or likewise, Draupadi was in so much of anger. What happens in most of the times when we face such situations, it's very easy for, I'm sorry to say, you can come give discourses and say that, just stay calm, mind, body and soul. Just give me a perspective of these two characters. What happened? You have 10 minutes.
So, questions were posed about two patrams. One is Sita, a very, very strong, influential patram from Srimad Ramayanam. And second was posed about Draupadi from Sri Mahabharatam. First, with respect to Sita, I've been telling this time and again, Sita doesn't need an advocate. She is a wonderful speaker and she can handle her cases on her own. Even on pro bono, she doesn't need. That said, when Rama was 24 and was just beginning with the 25th year, and Sita was 18, that is when he was ordained to go to the forest for 14 years on an exile. While he conveys his decision of going to the forest, leaving Sita back in Ayodhya, Sita says, I'm not staying here. I will come with you. Rama tries convincing, stating that there are wild beasts and you'll have to live on fruits and tubers. You'll have to go on a complete keto diet and all of that. Sita says, do you think life here is better? I have mothers-in-law here. Not mother, mothers-in-law. So rather I would live with you. She begins. While convincing Rama, she says, Kim tvam anyata vaidehaha pita me mithiladipah ramajamataram prapya striyam purusha vigraham. It is a blunder of my father for having gotten me married to a man who is in the disguise of a woman. Striyam purusha vigraham. He says, you can come with me. Very bold. While she was abducted and returned, well, Rama asks Vibhishana to escort her to the Sabha Mantapam in Lanka. He says, you will have to prove your chastity. Immediately we will fume. See, is this the way? That is why we say we should be talking about such issues. While she was abducted, just before she was abducted, while Lakshmana said, do not worry, nothing would have happened to my brother Rama, she says, despite me telling you to go and assist your brother, if you're not going, I suspect your intent of having served me for 13 years. You have been waiting till your brother leaves this place so that you can enjoy a relationship with me. This comes in Aranya Kanda. Whether you malign the woman or the man, a malignment is the same. So while Rama's love for Sita had not diminished, his sincerity in rescuing her from the clutches of Ravana had not waded away. As an administrator, he was duty bound to punish the person of wrongly maligning another person. Even if it meant his wife was to be punished, so be it. Just because my family is involved in corruption, it doesn't mean corruption can never be questioned. Just because it is Sita who has maligned Lakshmana, it is not that I cannot question. Remember, had Rama done that with the real intent of maligning her, Sita was so strong enough to say that I'll go back to Nepal, I don't need to stay with you. She was not a subservient woman. She was a very bold woman who had a mind of her own. Yet she did so. So the first case of Agni Pariksha doesn't feature here at all. That was a reply and a retort to her maligning Lakshmana. Coming to the second part, where she was exiled to the forest while she was in her first trimester, Even many of the traditional acharyas have said Rama could have thought and given this decision. But why was this decision given? Narayana Bhattadri in the 35th Dashaka, last shlokam of Sriman Narayanam, composed in the 16th century, states, Atita attachment to dharma, over attachment to dharma, will also end up making a few errors. In the course of driving well, by putting an indicator and also showing one's hand, will not serve the purpose because the indicator is on. Just to be a stickler to rules doesn't mean you'll have to overdo it. So, in the case of Sita being sent on an exile to the forest while she was pregnant, Acharyas have agreed that Rama's over-attachment could have caused this. And they have always sided with Sita, be it Bhavabhuti of Uttara Ramacharitram, be it Vedanta Deshika in Paduka Sahasram, be it Narayana Bhattadri, Narayaniyam at different points in time. Just because we are not cognizant of the language or the scriptures in which it is rendered, it doesn't mean that this is something where Rama has made a mistake. It means that his over-attachment has caused this, so administrators should read the rules properly. This is all. The topic can be concluded. Had Sita taken it in the topsy-turvy manner, she wouldn't have asked her sons to go back to Ayodhya and rule Ayodhya. She was a very strong woman. 1. 2. Coming back to Draupadi. Draupadi's childhood is absent because she emerged from the fire. Kumari chapi panchali vedi madhya samuthita shubhaga darshaniyangi vedi madhya manorama shyama padmapala shakshi. So she emerged from the fires. So she didn't have a childhood going to the school and having chat with her girls, nothing of that sort. She was born and her father got her married in 2 days. So she barely had any time to spend with her father's house. That said, she underwent a lot in her life. She was humiliated in the middle of the sabha while she was menstruating. Ekavastra rajaswala. While the menstrual blood was flowing across the floor is when she was brought to the sabha mantapam, says Vyasa. She was humiliated. She was humiliated for no reason. She was pawned wrongly. She was questioned wrongly. Everything that can go wrong with her went. Coming to the last stage where the war was fought, one of the main reasons for fighting the war was to restore justice to this humiliated woman. During the last days of the war, in the Sauktantika Parva, Ashwathama, the son of Drona, to impress upon Duryodhana, goes and shoots arrows, assuming that they were the Pancha Pandavas and the 5 sons born to the Pandavas to Draupadi. So next day they get to see the Times of Hastinapura paper. I think Mojo was asked this question, whether you like TOI or the Hindu. So when the Times of Hastinapura was Hindu, so he saw that the 5 sons of Draupadi were killed. Draupadi says that whoever has committed this act should be brought to justice. He was dragged. Ashwathama was dragged. That is when Draupadi says you should not be killing him. Take away shikha, because in those days it was believed that the shikha, the tuft which is preserved, if taken, if chopped off, means that the person is beheaded. You don't have to behead the person. Even a devout Sikh today believes that you should not be without the turban. So his tuft was taken and it was equivalent to beheading. It was his head was not taken away. And then she says, I cannot punish him because he is your guru's son. We have to follow dharma here. So to your question as to why she was aggressive and ferocious, I always say Mahabharata's Draupadi is very aggressive and ferocious. Srimad Bhagavatam's Draupadi is a lot more seasoned and calm. So we have to see Draupadi in 2 parts, part 1, part 2. This is the land that has given Bahubali 1 and 2, right? So similarly, we've got a part 1 and part 2 to Draupadi. Part 1 of Mahabharata, very aggressive. Part 2 is very, very seasoned, that we see. That's why she is forgiven Ashwathama. So I think I've answered your question in about 14 minutes, 4 minutes extra. Thank you.